Hi, welcome to another episode of The Golden Years, Understanding Better Living. I'm Phyllis Ayman, your host. Today we are so pleased to have with us Bonnie Loglisci, Vice President of Operations at Atria Senior Living in Connecticut and Westchester, New York. She has been an operations manager of senior living for 15 years and is a certified dementia manager, practitioner, and trainer. Welcome, Bonnie. So glad you could be here today.
Glad I could come.
So, I'm interested because we said that you were also a dementia manager. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So being a manager means that you understand fully the disease of Alzheimer's disease and other types of dementia. Understanding how to care for that resident as far as what care is provided, what type of regulatory guidelines need to be followed for someone living in one of those neighborhoods, and also what type of activities and stimulation a person with Alzheimer's would need. So really understanding the full person who lives in those memory care units.
So as a manager, do you oversee a variety of memory care neighborhoods, as you call them?
I do. So Atria provides independent care, assisted living, and memory care. So some of our communities do offer memory care neighborhoods. And so those neighborhoods are secure, and there is special programming that takes place in those neighborhoods. So people who do have that type of cognitive impairment can still live vibrant lives, but they're doing it at a cognitive level that they can understand and they can participate in.
Oh, that's terrific. So, I came to see Atria in Darien, Connecticut. It's a beautiful, beautiful place.
Thank you.
And something that struck me, which is why I really invited you to come on the show, is I learned things about Atria and assisted living that I didn't know before. And so I thought it would be good for our viewers to find out those things as well. Because I thought of assisted living as a much more social environment, but I didn't know that it can also provide different levels of care. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So traditional assisted living, it's really an opportunity for people to live independently in their own apartments. And then if care is needed, the care is brought into their apartment. And so they may need help with showering or help, an escort to a meal. They may need assistance with dressing. So those services can be provided in a traditional assisted living, but yet people can live that vibrant, active life in the privacy of their own apartment.
So because I think that oftentimes people seek care in a skilled nursing facility when maybe they don't need that because some of these services are available in an assisted living. So like if a person needs help with dressing, feeding, toileting, bathing, what kind of services, in those activities of daily living can a person receive?
So our activities of daily living that we can provide safely are help with dressing, help with medication reminders.
Oh, great.
Help with, again, just maybe some reminders, escorts. They can get help with showering. So those are not considered a skilled need in the state of Connecticut or in the state of New York. So we can safely provide those activities of daily living.
So I know for myself also the cost of assisted living is always something that's a concern. But we were talking, you were telling me that there are subsidies that people can get in New York especially to move into an assisted living. So what are those programs about?
So some of our communities have what's called a very low income program for people that qualify under their income, where they can have up to a $1,500 subsidy. At our Ardsley, New York location, we provide that type of program along with the state of New York. In Connecticut, there's a pilot program to help people with care. So there's a certain amount of spots that are available each year that somebody can apply for help with assistance. There's also the Veterans Program, which we spoke about,
right,
where so many people don't know about that benefit. And it really is such a great benefit for people who have been in World War II, for instance. If they were in active duty for a certain amount of time, they may qualify for this benefit. So when they first come in to tour our community, one of the first questions we ask during that interview is, are you a veteran? Or are you a surviving spouse of a veteran?
Right.
Because we want to make sure that we provide the necessary information to see if that person is qualified. So we work with partners that are experts in the field of veterans benefits to help somebody apply for that benefit, which they definitely deserve. They've served our country.
Absolutely. I think if I remember correctly, it's if you were 90 days active duty in World War II, the Korean conflict or the Vietnam War, and you're a senior veteran and served 1 day.
Correct. So that is the criteria. And then once they meet with the person who is the specialist with veterans benefits, they can go over how to apply, asset income type of information.
Yeah, don't they also need some kind of, in order to qualify, it's an aid and assistance benefit, they
Yes.
need to require some kind of need with activities of daily living, correct? Yeah.
And that's something that their doctor can qualify if they need.
So now in terms of those services, if a person needs them, do those cost extra, like if they need help with bathing or toileting, or is that part of, you know, what the assisted living community provides?
So at Atria, we provide the basic rent of the apartment, and then based on an assessment that takes place, we'll determine what type of care. Some providers do add care into the cost of the rent, but at Atria, we believe that people shouldn't pay for something that they might not necessarily need. So
Makes sense.
yeah, so if somebody just needs medication management, there's a small fee for medication management. Somebody could be totally independent, be able to care for themselves, take their own medication. So we don't put that into the cost of the rent. It's just solely the cost of the rent.
Oh, so it's like a menu of services.
Absolutely.
You know, one thing that I was really struck by and what really impressed me when I was at Atria and Darien is that every person, whether it was somebody who was serving food to someone who was preparing food, you know, anybody else walking by, everybody seemed to have a certain level of care about them.
Absolutely.
Even me, and I was just visiting, you know, everybody introduced themselves, asked me if I needed anything. So that seems to be a philosophy that Atria has in that community.
In all of our communities, when we hire someone, we believe all of our staff are caregivers, whether it's caring for someone by helping them with medications, whether it be, you know, serving them a delicious, nutritious meal. But our staff interacts. That social interaction is so important. And we have our maintenance directors that, you know, will go in and greet a family member when they come in, because we believe we all provide care at some level. It doesn't have to be the typical traditional caregiver, you know, hands-on care.
And I agree with you. You know, some of, you know, as you know, I come from a skilled nursing facility space. Viewers probably know that by now too. And, you know, all too often people think of caregiving as being very compartmentalized.
Correct.
And it's only up to the individual to step outside that and realize that they can interact with people in a more caring way. So it's nice to see a place that really embodies that as a philosophy. And talking about the meals, I have to say it was like gourmet dining. It was some of the most delicious food. It was really terrific.
Yes, we do pride ourselves on our culinary experience.
I mean, it was phenomenal. I have to say. I mean, it was worth going there just to have lunch one day. So do people get a chance to choose their menu, or is it, you know, like just one item and an alternative for a day like it is in more traditional places, or is there a menu that they can choose from, like going to a restaurant kind of thing?
Yes, it's restaurant-style dining. They have choices every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, as well as we have what's called an anytime menu, where if someone comes in and say, I just feel like a burger today, I feel like a salad, We cater to our residents. They can come in and order whatever they want. Many of our communities have anytime dining, so they don't have to have breakfast up until 9 o'clock. They can have breakfast at 11
Oh,
o'clock.
great. It's like going to a diner and having an anytime menu.
Absolutely. And so everybody's different. You know, we have people that live in our communities that all their life they may have worked the overnight shift. So breakfast to that person and breakfast to somebody else may be two different times.
Good point.
So we want to make sure that we appreciate who is living in our building, and we cater to their needs, not just their care needs, but their social needs and their wellness needs altogether.
And I was going to ask about that too. We were talking about people's interest levels and the activities they participated in before, what their hobbies were, what their interests were in life, and you were telling me how you try to incorporate that into, the life that they're now living in, because they are continuing to live their life in this space. So how do you accommodate people who may have interests that are not the typical?
So when somebody comes in, we have them fill out what we call the learn, do, try. What would you like to learn? What would you like to do?
Oh, I love that.
And what would you like to try? For some people, they're going to continue to do what they've always done. We take them to Broadway shows. We take them to museums. We have a rowing program at many of our communities where they compete against each other.
That's cool.
So some people that participate in that never tried that in their life, but at 80 and 90 years old, they're getting to try things that they've never done. So that's what keeps them vibrant. That's what keeps them feeling and looking young, because they're socially active, they're physically active, they're spiritually active. So we really try to give them a full experience.
And I think that that's so crucial, because I talk about this a lot, how, people think that when people get to a certain age, like that's like the declining years. Especially when people move into a skilled nursing facility, I always, say people are thinking of it like a destination, like that's their final stop. But people can continue to live and thrive and grow and learn, and like you said, that's what keeps you vibrant. As a matter of fact, they say that formal education helps, reduce the risk of cognitive decline or slows cognitive decline, and there are many adults who go back to school. There are adult continuing education programs, and I think it's great that Atria and assisted livings have that attitude. I don't know if they all do, but certainly I noticed that Atria does, and I think it's terrific.
So it's funny you mentioned that. We just started a new program called our One Day University, where we have college classes streaming live into our theaters in our communities.
Oh, fantastic.
So they have different topics every month, but our Engage Life program directors will facilitate this program, watching the actual course and then doing breakout sessions where they talk about the subject.
Terrific.
Because yes, they need to continue to learn and grow, and to offer this is such a unique program. I don't know any other provider that's offering this program.
That's awesome. So something just came to mind when you mentioned that, which is, what about people who have a level of professorial accomplishment? It doesn't even have to be professorial accomplishment. What about having a program? Is there a possibility, I'm just thinking stream of consciousness, I hope you don't mind, of somebody presenting a program or presenting a class?
Our seniors that live in our communities are world-renowned artists and playwrights, and they come from all different parts of the world, and they've traveled, and they have so much to offer. So we encourage that. We have programs where they share those experiences. They share recipes with us.
Oh, that's cool.
So we incorporate who they are in our community, and our residents love that because they learn from and share from each other.
And that's what we all should really be doing. And I mean, any conversation, you can learn something from somebody else. I saw it was something on LinkedIn this morning, and this this person posted something about, do you feel that the prime of your life has passed you by? And, my response to that was, we're really all living the prime of our lives at this moment. It's just your attitude about it and how you think about it and how you view the next person. And thinking about the prime of your life that's passed you by is kind of a way of saying, well, you're older and you're past your prime, and so whatever goes along with that. And so, what I always talk about is trying to change people's attitudes about that as a society, because we have a tendency to think that.
Sure.
So it's so great to hear that Atria is trying to, or is promoting people continuing to live with purpose and live productive lives and thrive. And because socialization, as we know, is very important as you get older. People who don't have that opportunity, they can get depressed and then they get isolated. So,
and that's our mantra, people belong together. We know that, and studies show that people that live in a community, that socialize, that have human contact with peers of, that have a like interest, that they live longer, they live happier, there's less incident of depression. So that community feeling and that community living is really what keeps people alive. And I just hope that more family members realize that people of that generation, their moms, their dad, their loved ones, they really deserve to have that quality of life, and it's not over. And you talked about destination. Their destination, if they can live a year or two in an assisted living, that's important to have that 2 years of really quality of life. And we can't care for everyone. There are care needs that are beyond what we can safely manage. But if somebody can live in one of our communities and have that quality of life, regardless of the amount of time, it's really a gift. And I hope families really take that into consideration when they're making that decision of what's the best place for mom or dad or a loved one.
Well, something that you told me about, which I also thought was terrific, was that, if you're not sure if this is the right place for you or the right environment or the right, level of care or situation, you have an interesting program where you could kind of try it out program, right?
Yes.
It's like 30 days. So you want to tell us a little about that?
Sure. So that's our trial stay. We're so confident that people, once they get acclimated to one of our communities, they're going to thrive. There's always that adjustment period.
Right.
So we say, come and try us out. It may not be for everyone, but try it out, because this is an option. And if you're the type of person that will give it a chance and get to meet our staff, get to experience that great dining experience which you spoke about, engage in the wonderful activities, then that's a chance for that person to start living the life that they deserve. So we say, you're under no obligation. Come for 30 days. We have a furnished room for you. Bring your suitcase.
Oh, I love it. I'm coming.
and start living. I mean, because you know what the greatest accomplishment or the greatest feeling for a caregiver like myself, because watching people come in and transform their lives, going from living alone, maybe forgetting to eat a meal, being depressed. When you see someone's lives transform after they move into one of our communities, it's a great feeling. It's why we do what we do.
So I think it's also important for, family members when, if their loved one moves into a place like Atria, an assisted living community, to remain active so that they can see the benefit that, their loved one is deriving from being in this kind of place. And then also to continue to advocate for them in ways as is necessary.
And I think family members too often initially feel the guilt of, I should keep mom at home. I should be able to take care of this person. And we spoke about
yes,
how
that was my next question. Yeah.
how it's important to give that family member the permission to be the child, have the relationship with mom or dad, but you don't have to be the caregiver. Let us do the care. Come and visit mom or dad. Spend the quality of time. We have caregivers or adult children that come in. They'll participate in the one-day university with mom.
Oh, that's great.
So now they have something to speak about.
Right.
After the program is over, you'll see that they're dining with mom or dad. They're talking about what the day was like, and they're able to be that child again. They don't have to be the person to remind them to take their meds. They don't
Right.
have to help them get in the shower. We can do all that for them, and they can now have the quality relationship with mom or dad for the years that they have left.
Yeah, because that's sometimes a very uncomfortable relationship. You brought up that we talked about this, so do you mind talking about that? You were telling me about a family member of yours that had this feeling that they had to take care of your mother, I believe it
Yes.
was. So can you talk about? Do you mind talking about
No,
it?
not at all. So I was actually a caregiver at a very young age. My father had his first heart attack at the age of 43. I was 12 years old at the time. So my two older sisters were off to college. So it was myself, my mom, and my dad. So our lives changed dramatically. My mother counted on me to be the person to come home from school and help care for my dad. And my mom at that time just started nursing school. So I would help her with studying for her nursing school, and also took care of my dad, and became a caregiver at a very young age. But I don't regret it, because it helped me understand the value of what caregivers go through, and it is a tremendous sacrifice. But my dad lived for about 20 years after that and passed away of a massive heart attack. And then when it came to what to do with mom, my sister came down to Florida, swooped mom up, packed up her house, and moved her to South Carolina, and cared for her until she passed away last January. But at the last few months of my mom's life became very difficult. And so the caregiving became overwhelming for my sister. And she would call me, and I would say, Donna, it's okay. You need help. You can't do this anymore. It's too much for you. And her response was, but I promised Dad.
Oh, I have the chills, right.
And I said, but the last time Daddy saw Mommy was 20 years ago. She was a very different person. And I'm giving you the permission to be her daughter and not her caregiver. And so with that came a sigh of relief. We got her into a facility that was able to manage her care for the remaining 2 months of her life, and they were wonderful. And my sister was able to go to work and know that my mom was safely cared for. And I think for so many of our adult children, it's a sigh of relief when they move into one of our communities. They don't have to worry about, did mom fall last night?
Right.
God forbid, did she wander? Because before they get to the point where someone asks for help, they've been through a lot.
Absolutely. There are 44 million unpaid caregivers in this country that are giving care to a loved one or older parent. And, many millions of those, I think at least a quarter of them are providing more than 30 hours of care. And, it's this whole concept of the sandwich generation, people are sandwiched between their job and family responsibilities and caring for, their older parent. And there are cultural expectations, family expectations, like you say, promises made. And it's a very difficult thing. And people need to know that they're not alone, and they do have permission to, I don't want to say relinquish that care, because I tell people when they move into an assisted living or a skilled nursing facility, you still can you need to be active, you need to be an advocate, you can continue to be a caregiver on some level, even though you're not the primary caregiver.
Absolutely. So we at HR, we look at it as a triangle of care. The caregiver being us, the resident, and the family member. We need our families to be involved. We need to know about mom or dad. We need to know that they're still going to be an active part of their life, and the resident expects them to be an active part of their life, but in a different way. So it's very important. We do a lot of special events for our families. When we have a Mother's Day event, or if we have a Father's Day event, which is coming up, we have barbecues, and we have things that they can attend, and special meals, special activities, because again, people belong together, and people belong together with their families. It doesn't mean because they move in to one of our communities that they're going to stop having that relationship. The relationship actually gets stronger. We find it gets better because now their son or daughter can go to work and be productive. They can spend time with their children at home. And you talked about the sandwich generation. It's overwhelming, the amount of responsibilities on that caregiver. So if we can help at all, that's what we earn business to do.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You know, there are different levels of care that people have to provide for their loved one, and even if it's something at a basic level where maybe you're helping with grocery shopping or doctor's appointments or you know, errands, it still takes its toll, because you still have your other responsibilities in your schedule, and you're trying to fit that in, and people are running like from pillar to post, and it's very difficult. And then it's difficult on employers as well, which is, you know, a lot of companies in the public and private sector actually are starting to address the needs. I read just yesterday there are 100 million baby boomers in this country. So that's, you know, those people, we've all had parents. Maybe they're with us, maybe they're not with us any longer, but you know, people are living longer, and so people have parents, like you said. You have somebody in one of your communities that just turned 104. I did a seminar yesterday. A woman was telling me her mother is in an assisted living community, and she's 101, and other people had, you know, parents in their 90s or grandparents in their 90s and 80s. So people are living longer, and their care needs are going to increase as, you know, some will become more frail than others. We talked about that too. It's not an even.
Everybody ages differently.
Right.
Correct. So, and that's where we find when people come in, they'll ask questions. Family members, will mom be able to stay here forever? We don't have a crystal ball to say this will be the right setting, but certainly we know that by people eating better and exercising and taking their medications on time and having that socialization, those are the factors that lead to a healthier, longer life. So we're hoping if more people can come in, you know, at a younger age, and they're able to experience that type of lifestyle, people will be able to live longer and healthier.
And, you know, there may be interim periods where they have to go to, let's say, a short-term rehabilitation. Maybe they fall and break a hip, or maybe they need a knee replacement, or whatever it is. But they, you know, once rehabilitated, they can return to the assisted living community, even if they still need some levels of care.
And that's why it's so important to partner with people like a physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, which is your area of expertise, to get that person back to their base level so they can continue enjoying their life. Absolutely, there are sometimes interim periods where people need that, and so we very successfully partner with short-term rehabs and bring physical therapy into our buildings so residents don't have to leave.
Oh, that's terrific.
So it comes right to the community.
That's great.
They have occupational therapy in their apartments, so they can learn how to get out of their bed again, or whatever type of rehabilitation services that they need.
Oh, that's awesome. So suppose somebody needs assistance, but not for like an isolated activity of daily living. Suppose it's not just dressing or bathing. Suppose they don't need skilled nursing care, but they need, care or a companion with them for a longer period of time. Is that something that's also possible in an assisted living?
Absolutely. So companions, oftentimes families will initially bring in a companion. Maybe they had a private companion living at home and they feel that until they get acclimated to our community, that's also an option. But certainly if somebody, needs a little bit more assistance, families have the option to bring in someone, or we can, in some cases, help them find that care. In the state of New York, we offer, we have a home care company, which is a subsidiary of Atria Home Care, that provides services above and beyond what our communities do.
That's great. That's great. So how would people get in touch with you or Atria? Would they get in touch with, the different communities in different places, or is there a central place where they get in touch with Atria, and then it I don't want to say farms out, but then it's referred out to the other communities as needed?
Yes, so if you go to atriaseniorliving.com and it says find a community near you, you can put in your zip code, and that will allow you to search for communities within a certain mile radius of where you live. Sometimes families are living in Texas and their loved one is here in Connecticut, and so just by going on the website, you'll be able to locate, and then it will take you to that nearest community. It'll have a phone number to call. We're open 7 days a week. Call, put your information in, let us get back to you, because again, if we're not the right fit, let us be a resource, and we'll make sure that we point you in the right direction.
Oh, that's great to know. So, Bonnie, thanks so much for coming today. I know our viewers learned a lot about assisted living, but especially about Atria. I know I did when I visited Atria Darien. So thanks so much. I appreciate the time and all the information that you were able to provide for our viewers.
Phyllis, it's been my pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you again at one of our communities.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. So thanks for tuning in today. Hope you enjoyed the show. This is Phyllis Ayman saying goodbye until we see you next time on the Golden Years, Understanding Better Living.